Rover on B, getting us started. One more day, one more game. Thinking about something on the ride over here. Thinking about narratives. Growing up as a little kid, and even still now, people are always trying to tell young people what to focus on. They talk about STEM, right? Science, technology. I'm not sure what the E is, and math. And this is the way to be successful. Focusing on this. They always show a little kid, or maybe a teenager, in a lab with a pipette, and they show that, and they say, this is the future. This is engineering. They say that this is the path forward, and it's true. I mean, we need that. We need vaccines, and we need cures for cancer and whatnot. But I mean, what they really, I think, miss is that what is the most important thing to focus on is actually not included in STEM. It's not, the E is not, that's engineering, but the real E is English. The real true thing to understand, the real thing to focus on is English and language and writing, and really the creation of narratives. If you want to be successful, I think you have to learn how to create and exchange narratives, because you'll see that narratives are basically everywhere. They are bought and sold at very high prices, and this is how several large companies create value. You turn on the TV, right? You turn on CNN, and what is the true value of what they're selling? It's not just reporting the actual things that are happening, but it's really about creating a narrative around it. That's what they're actually selling. That's what you're buying. That's when you tune in. You're not maybe so interested necessarily that there's violence in the Middle East, or that there is violence in a certain part of the country, or that there is political unrest in part of Europe. You may not be so interested specifically in that area, but what you're interested in is the political narrative that surrounds it. That's what they're selling you. That political narrative that people are being oppressed, or that people are not being heard, or that a big person in power potentially did something very wrong, and now we're going to punish that person for it. That's the narrative. That's the narrative that's very easy to latch onto, and people love that narrative, and that's what they're selling. They're selling narratives. And I'm thinking, and I think you should be thinking, and I think young people should be thinking, why are we always on the standpoint of buying the narrative? Shouldn't we be starting to focus on trying to sell these narratives? Shouldn't we be focusing on trying to create these narratives and sell these narratives? Because that is something that you could focus on. And you don't have to spend time in a lab dripping fluids or diluting things. You don't have to spend time, doing quote-unquote research. You don't have to, go online and learn code. All you have to do is read and understand narratives and learn how to recreate them and recreate narratives. I have learned that narratives can be interesting. You have to create a narrative. You have to create a believable narrative. You have to craft a narrative that makes sense. You got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you got to have those components. The beginning has to be some sort of an adventure, the start of an adventure. And there's a backstory that leads into it. There's a backstory. There's something that happened, potentially a success or maybe even a failure, and that created the need to do a change, and that created the beginning. And then as you get into the middle, you sort of get into a daily grind, and you get to a certain level. The middle shows you've achieved some certain level of success, intermixed with some failure. You've come up to speed. You've been doing that for some time. And then, of course, always, there has to be an end. there has to be an ending to the story, and you have to decide how the story is going to end. Is it going to be a good ending? Is it going to be a bad ending? Is it going to be a sad ending? Is that ending going to mean that you're going to try to teach someone a lesson, or is it going to be an uplifting ending? And you have to decide what that's going to be. It's up to you. It's up to you to decide what sort of impression you want to give. You can use all the tools at your disposal, and the main one really is studying other narratives, really studying them, not just looking at them, not just taking them in for what they're worth, but really studying them and seeing how they're created, how they're being transpired, and how they come across. And understanding that all human behavior is not so much based on science or facts or published data, which, by the way, all those things can be, manipulated. Reports in journals and, evidence-based research, they can all be manipulated by people, so they don't exist in and of themselves. The way that human behavior works is it's a response to a narrative. So you have to understand what type of narrative you want to create in order to generate the response that you're looking for. And that's all that you have to do. That's what I'm going to do.